Saint Josephine Bakhita was born in 1869 in Darfur, a region in Sudan, in the village of Oglosa. She belonged to the Dodgy people, and her father was the brother of the village chief. She had 3 brothers and sisters, and so at that time that she lived a happy and carefree life without knowing what suffering really was. In February of 1877, when St. Josephine was about 8 years old, she was abducted to Arab slave traders who had 2 years before that kidnapped her other 2 sisters. She was sold twice into slavery even before she arrived to meet the slave owners, and she ended up being sold 3 more times and then given away in the course of 12 years. Because of the abduction, all of the trauma caused her to forget her own name, so one of her slave owners gave her the name Bakhita, which means fortunate in Arab, and was soon forced to convert into Islam. In the beginning years as a slave, all of her owners were so cruel, and one of them even forced her to have scarification and tattooing. They would cut patterns into her skin and put salt into it to make sure it scars. She had a total of 144 on her chest, breast, and arm. Her second to last slave owner was an Italian consul named Callisto Lignani. He was the first and only slave owner that treated Bakhita with respect. When he moved to Zagnino, Italy, he decided to bring Bakhita with him, and soon she was introduced to the Mashelli family. When the Mashellis had a daughter, Mimina, Bakhita became her babysitter and friend. Since both Mr. and Mrs. Mashelli had to go to Suakin, Mimina and Bakhita went to live with the Canossian sisters of the Institute of Catechumens in Venice, Italy. When the Mashellis came to take them back, Bakhita refused to leave. For 3 days, Mrs. Mashelli tried to force her to come back, but on November 29, 1889, the Italian court ruled that she was not considered a slave anymore, since Sudan had outlawed slavery even before Bakhita was even born. On January 9, 1890, Bakhita received the sacraments of Christian initiation and was given the new name Josephine. And on December 7, 1893, she took her vows, and in 1902, she joined the Canossian convent in Schio, which is in northern Italy province of Vicenza, which she ends up spending the rest of her life at. For the next 50 years, she did everything in God's name, from sharing her experiences with others to cooking and sewing. Bakhita's attitude towards life and her act of always smiling made her very popular in the Schio community, and people even called her Madre Moreta, or Black Mother. The other sisters at the convent always admired her for her sweet nature and her desire to make everyone know God. At the end of her life, Bakhita endured painful years of sickness and would continually say, as the Master desires, when people would ask her how she is doing. During the last days of her life, she would revisit times when she was a slave and would say, "Please, loosen the chains, they are heavy." And when she didn't feel pain, she would say, Our Lady, which were her final words. She passed away on February 8, 1947, and for 3 days her body laid out on display for thousands of people to pay their respects. She was beatified on May 7, 1992, and became a saint on October 1, 2000 by Pope John Paul II, and is the only patron saint of Sudan. Saint Josephine Bakhita is a great disciple of the church, and she shows that by completely trusting in God and believing that God has a reason for everything. She will always go out of her way to help and comfort the people who are suffering, and will constantly spread God's word and how he had helped her overcome her days of slavery. Saint Josephine Bakhita has taught me to forgive and put my complete trust in God. When a little girl asked her what she would do if she met her captors again, she said, "If I were to meet those who kidnapped me, and even those who tortured me, I would kneel and kiss their hands, for if these things had not happened, I would not have been a Christian and religious today." Saint Josephine Bakhita is able to come up with a positive attitude in such a negative time in her life. She is able to forgive all of those who have done wrong things to her and doesn't dwell on the past. Bakhita is selfless in every act she does and always thinks for the better of the people. It is very easy for someone who has been through the same experiences as her to be angry and to be hateful towards people. But St. Josephine Bakhita has proven that if you trust God and forgive, you can live the life of a disciple of God and have no regrets.